Welcome to the 7th episode of the Uncharted 80s podcast. I'm here again with my good buddy Noel. Welcome, Noel.
Great to be back. Very excited for today's band.
And for those that are listening for the first time, just to let you know, our podcast is about those bands that perhaps didn't get some of the spotlight back in the 80s, and we're now shining a light on those bands. So, Noel, who's the band that you're talking about today?
I'm really pleased to be bringing to the table South Wales effervescent guitar pop heroes, the Darling Buds.
I didn't mean to upset you. I didn't mean to throw you out. I didn't mean to stab a shot, and now I'm sorry too. And I never should have said those things. I never should have told you lies, and now I see it in your eyes. I'm so sorry too. But you know I just can't take it if you walk away. My head's gonna bust, it doesn't matter what you say. I just can't take it if you walk away from me. I should try to make things right. I should try to understand everything got out of hand. I don't know what.
They were formed in a village, whose name I'll get wrong, and they'll correct me when we speak to them later, but I'll try and pronounce it correctly, which is Coolium, which is next to Newport in South Wales, in 1986. And they were kind of noted for being a band which sort of bridged the period of time between the C86 movement, which is as you know, the NME compilation of all the sort of indie pop jangly bands of that period.
Oh, I had that. I had that cassette.
I did it. I think it had a cassette as well. Yeah, across to the sort of start of the Britpop era. So they bridged that whole kind of era between two different genres, really. But they were consistently playing some great melodic tunes, really, as you know.
Yeah, great. It's probably worth mentioning that we are going to speak to a couple of members of the Darling Buds, Andrea and Matt. So, that's coming up in today's podcast.
Yeah, I'll be really looking forward to that. And obviously their big hit, probably the one people might know the most, is called Hit the Ground. They were around from 1986 to 1993. Then there were sort of later reunions we can talk about. But yeah, as you mentioned, Andrea Lewis was the singer-songwriter. Is the singer-songwriter. The initial lineup, the guitarist is a guy called Geran Farr, who was more known as Harley, actually. So it was Harley and Andrea. And there was a guy on bass who's simply known as Simon. And when they first started, they just had a drum machine, actually, funny enough. So they used to play in a little venue in Newport called TJ's. So I mention it because it comes back up later on, TJ's. And this is in 86. And then in 87, they must have sold the drum machine because they didn't have it anymore. So they got a proper drummer in who was Richard Gray. And Simon, the bassist, went off and did something else and was replaced by Chris McDonough, who was with them for a very long time after that, actually. Yeah, in 87, they self-pressed their debut single, which was called If I Said.
You don't know what you put me through. And I don't know what to say or do. I don't wanna be touched by you. Touched by you. And if I said 1,000 words and all at once you take my breath away.
But interestingly enough, John Peel took a real interest in them and actually played the B-side a lot more. It's called Just to Be Seen. So yes, they kind of got themselves known for.
Good old John Peel coming again. Once again, all the bands that we seem to speak to have been pushed by him.
Absolutely. I mean, he in '87 he gave them 2 Peel sessions actually, which is pretty incredible in March and August '87, and also one in '89 as well. So he gave them 3 Peel sessions in total, which is quite impressive. So this is in '87. So in 1988, a Sheffield-based label called Native picked them up and produced the next couple of singles. It's All Up to You and Shame on You. In '89, they got signed by Epic, and they produced the album Pop Said, which is critically acclaimed and still sounds great to today.
And that was a hit. Was that a hit? That one
It was a hit. The
yeah.
album was a hit with the single Hit the Ground, which I mentioned earlier. They performed Top of the Pops with Hit the Ground, and actually caused the album to go to number 23 in the album charts, which isn't that high, but it's more of a hit than No Impact at all.
I'll be happy with a number 27 hit.
Mate, always, any day of the week. And Hit the Ground actually, as a single, went up to number 27. But yeah, so they had a bit of they had quite a big impact. They had a lot of press as well. So Melody Maker, as you know, for the listeners who are not UK based, there were 3 big music papers around at the time, which were very influential: the NME, New Musical Express, the Sounds, and Melody Maker. And they appeared on the front cover twice of Melody Maker, as well as on Record Mirror, which was another big production magazine which came out. Yeah, so that happened in '89. Also in '89, the drummer Richard left. He was replaced by a guy who used to play for the band Black, called Jimmy Hughes. Black.
Okay, so yeah, Black. So we interviewed It's Immaterial, and he was talking about John Campbell. He was talking about Black, wasn't he?
He was actually, yeah. So there's a connection there with that band. It was obviously that fantastic song, Wonderful Life. Yeah. So in 1990, they worked with Stephen Street. Now he's a fantastic producer. I mean, I've got a lot of stuff by the Smiths and so on. He did a load of stuff with them, Morrissey, so on, Blur, Kaiser Chiefs. He produced their second album, which came out really quickly, Crawdaddy.
He's got some pedigree then.
Oh mate, that's serious, isn't it? Honestly,
Yeah.
When you see his name on something, you think, well, this is going to be good.
Yeah.
And it is, isn't it? And they had a couple of singles on it, which actually cracked the Billboard alternative chart in the States. So they was making a bit of a name, sort of on the underground there as well.
Well, for me, the Crawdaddy album is probably, controversially, I think is probably better than Pop Said. I know Pop Said was their first, and that sort of was their breakthrough album, and was very, very critically acclaimed. And I know Crawdaddy didn't quite make wasn't perhaps as commercially successful as Pop Said, but I prefer it.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because so many bands, I mean, it's almost a catchphrase now to say the difficult second album, isn't it?
Yeah. Bands
tour for years on songs that they've played forever, the audiences love, they've really perfected them, and they put them on the first album. Then the record company is down their neck saying, right, we want a follow-up, and they're quickly having to write songs, and how often that just doesn't hit the mark because they're just under pressure to do it. So it's great to hear that Crawdaddy really has achieved that.
Well, also, I don't know whether or not that was perhaps more why the American market maybe picked up that. I don't get a feeling from listening to the two albums that was perhaps more American, I don't know, style of music, but certainly it makes no difference. And I think it was called So Close.
It makes no
So,
difference. It was one of the
yes.
ones that cracked the Billboard chart, actually.
Feeling it burn, sticking the knife and I feel it turn. But I will laugh. Sooner or later it'll pass. It makes no difference. Oh, it makes no difference to me.
So yeah, then the next album then was in '92 then, so it was a couple of years later, so they had time to sort of put something together, a bit longer to write it, and they started writing stuff in the States actually for that. But then they got back to the UK and they met up again with Stephen Street, which is fantastic. And the album's called Erotica, and ironically that was issued before Madonna came out with her album of the same name. So
That's
yeah.
just been re-released, I think, hasn't it?
Oh, has it?
Yeah, on yellow vinyl.
That's good to know. Well, they had a guitarist join them at that point called Paul Watkins, who was around playing with them for Crawdaddy as well. But he was replaced by Matt Gray, who we're going to chat with later. Actually, both Paul and Matt now play in the reformed version of the Darling Buds, so they're both still around. There's one little interesting fact about that album which I quite liked. I'm a big fan of the Rosillos, and I really like the Human League. And one of the members from those guys is called Joe Callis, and he was involved in writing one of the songs on that album, so that was good to know. So really after that they moved to the States, to LA, to do some more demos, but the record company kind of lost interest in them. I think they, you know what, this happened so many times with these
There's
bands we
another
talked to.
story. Yeah,
Every
as usual.
single time.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, they push them, and then the minute they don't seem to get immediate response to a record, they drop them. You know, and this happens so many times. It's kind of depressing, really. But
Do we
I
know
don't
why?
why is
No?
this? We had to ask them, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, one thing that happened at that same era. So you know the Mike Myers film, So I Married an Axe Murderer. Well, one of their songs actually appears on that. So that would have got some listens around the world.
Oh yeah. Okay. I sort of know of the film. I'm not sure I'm familiar with it personally.
No.
Maybe I'll seek it out now we know that there's a
That's
song
it,
on the
yeah.
soundtrack. Yeah.
Go and have a little listen to it. They did some gigs and stuff along the line. They supported the Wonder Stuff. I think one of the things I guess would have been great for them was in Cardiff, which is sort of a local gig. They were third on the bill after Simple Minds in Texas.
Oh
An
whoa.
arena gig. So for them, it would be like a sort of homecoming and bit of a, I would imagine they must have felt pretty good about the fact that they were playing this big place with these big people, you know, coming from the local area. So that was pretty cool.
And do we know who their earlier influences were?
Beatles were one of them, and Blondie were as well, actually, I read. So we'll ask them about that, though, when we have a chat in a minute.
Do you remember when we spoke to the photos? They were sort of deemed to be like the British Blondie. Is it the same thing for these guys?
Well, this is interesting because I would need to ask them, but I'd be very surprised if the press wasn't also trying to pin that label on them. They
Yeah.
tried to pin it on things like sort of girl-fronted bands like Transvision Vamp and the Primitives as well.
Yeah.
So I'd be very surprised if they didn't try and stick it on this as well. So on the Darling Buds. Just on gigs, I noticed they did a gig once in Bedford, just down the road from where I used to live in Northampton, and they were supported by the Lars and Sandy Shaw.
Oh, well, you love the Lars.
Yeah, I love the
So,
Lars and
yeah.
Sandy Shaw as well. I mean,
Yeah.
imagine being supported, you know, sort of like big names
That's
effectively.
That's an eclectic mix.
It certainly is. It
Mhm.
certainly is. I've got loads of notes about the reunion. They got together in 2010, and then again in 2017 they released an EP called the Evergreen EP.
Someday gonna take you by the hand, walk up on the rich way, look down, shake you up, spin your head around, take a little seat
then since then they've been pretty much doing the occasional gig.
What prompted the reunion then?
Oh yeah, what prompted the reunion actually in 2010 was that I mentioned the TJ's venue earlier, and the guy who'd owned it had died, and so it was a tribute to him. And they thought, well, do you know what? We cut our teeth there, we made our name there, and they probably thought they were kind of responsible for giving them the limelight that helped them launch their career really as a band. So they went to play a gig there as a tribute to him. So that was really nice. That's it, really. That's it. That's the story of the Darling Birds. Andrea now and her husband actually run a children's theatre school down in Wales. So that's what she does as a kind of a full-time thing. But they still, as I say, do some gigs together as well.
Oh, I can't wait to talk to them. Andrea, Matt, thanks for joining us on the Uncharted 80s podcast. Perhaps you could start with a nice, straightforward question. We know I think we know the background to the name of the Darling Buds, but we don't really know why it was chosen. So maybe you could share that with us.
Well, yeah, it first of all comes from Shakespeare and then H.E. Bates' book. And I think we just had pretty crap names, actually. And it was on Harley's bookshelf or his parents' bookshelf. And he said, what about the Darling Birds? And we all just liked it. So there's not really anything about it it just sounded better than all the rest. Yeah.
So when you were first formed, what was the Welsh music scene like at that time?
Well, South Wales, in our little corner of southeast Wales, there wasn't any bands that sounded like the Darling Birds. It was kind of a hardcore punk scene here, really. That was what there's a record shop in Newport where the owner of that was the guy who put all the gigs on. So everyone sort of gravitated towards that shop and his gigs, and their whole thing was, it started off sort of like the Membranes, Janitors, that kind of in-tape stuff, Bog Shed, all those sorts of bands used to play here. And then they sort of gravitated to sort of like when Husker Du and the Battle Surfers started coming over. They always played in Newport. So a lot of the local bands were sort of supported all those sorts of bands. So yeah, there was punky really. There wasn't much sort of indie as such. Not like in Scotland where you had a whole bunch of indie bands that sounded similar. We were kind of the Buds were sort of quite. We still played with all those bands though. I mean, all the bands I was in before I was in the Buds. We played with the Buds and we all played together. It was quite an eclectic scene. Everyone got on really well, and it was there was no sort of tribalism about it. It was quite good.
And then it got a bit more rocky then, didn't it? The further into Wales you went.
Well, we were sort of on the edge in the city, and metal was big up the valleys, but sort of north of the M4 in Wales is a different world, really.
Excellent. So obviously the stuff you do is very quite melodic in my opinion anyway, the stuff that you're doing. So out of interest, what were your influences for that kind of music that you were playing as the Buds?
I think in the early days when I used to come up with all those melodies, and still now really, it's just that sort of 60s sound. I was really into lots of 60s bands, and my parents had Herman's Hermits, the Beatles, all those kind of very sort of Merseyside kind of beat with a really melodic vocals and female singers and all that. So I just naturally, that's what I kind of was drawn towards, and then just probably came out in how I write.
I love that. I mean, I definitely get a 60s vibe from the sound. It's, definitely could feel that in the music. You self-pressed the single, if I said. What was that process? How did you go about actually pressing a single? And
well, at the time, Harley worked in a local, what's called Loco Studios, actually, which was a recording studio just on the Usk Valley. And yeah, he was like T-boy there, and he was working with Julian Cope, and there was a couple of people that were he was allowed to have a go on the desk and work with the producers there, and so we wrote some demos, and he said, all right, we've got some free studio time, let's go in and use it up. So we did that, and then bless her, his grandmother passed away but left him some money, and so he was like, right, it was his dream, I'm pressing up a single, I'm paying for it all, I'm doing it. We did the artwork, just did everything, but it was because he was getting free time in the studio. So I think we'd had done demo tapes, because I have found them and it's got my name on it, when I think we were giving those out. But then it was kind of like we just sort of jumped the gun really and skipped that bit and went straight to doing a single. It was probably the best thing we could do, because Harley just put a load in one of his like record bags, went to London and dropped them off at BBC radio into the pigeonholes of Janice Long, John Peel, and the Sounds, Melody Maker, Enemy. Just went round them all and handed them in. Really, literally literally self-promoted from like his little record bag, went around and handed them all out, and from that we seemed to have a lot of interest straight away.
Because I believe, didn't John Peel bring you up at home?
Yeah, from that.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, we'd written out a little slip to go in with the record, which had like contact details on it. When Johnny Long and John Peel started playing us, we get phone calls from friends who you'd be at home, or I was actually living in London for a little while, and I had a friend phone me up and say, "Andrea, you're on the radio now," and we're trying to sort of tune in and get on there. It was brilliant. But I remember us all being at Harley's house when John Peel phoned, and his dad answered the phone and shouted back, "Is John Peel on the phone?" like that. And Harley went to speak to him, and he said, "Look, I've had a lot of people ring in, so can I give out your details, promoters and other people that wanted to put our band on for gigs?" I'm pretty sure Native Records as well had got in touch through that. So yeah, that was the reason for it, and that obviously was a massive leap for us then.
Oh, that's fantastic stuff.
Yeah. A lot of the bands that we've spoken to, they all sort of cite that John Peel influence, and particularly doing some of the sessions there. That's been a real sort of thread running through all of the bands that we've spoken to.
It's a real honour. It's an absolute honour to do it, because I know with the boys they were sort of much more into all the kind of music that I love John Peel as well. I love the music, but they were die hard, really, really every single night recorded it, taped it. And so when we were asked to do that, it was one of the biggest highlights, I think, of being in the Darling Buds, was getting asked to do that. And you've got a few hours, the engineers there, they're on a roll, they know what they're doing. It's all very exciting. Yeah.
And did it change?
You did three sessions, didn't you, I think, for Peel in the end?
Yeah, we did 3 for Peel, and then we did 1 for, I think it might have been for Janice Long or Kershaw, Liz Kershaw. Yeah.
Because did the John Peel sessions, did they change everything for the band? Did it catapult you, or was it just part of the sort of upward trajectory anyway?
I think it was part of the upward trajectory anyway, because I don't know, I think we started to sort of, not long into doing the John Peel sessions, started having major record label interest, and that wasn't really John Peel's audience, was it? Do you know what I mean? They kind of, back then you were either one or the other. You were either playing on John Peel or you were, and we kind of crossed over pretty quickly. So yeah, I think we kind of lost some of maybe that audience from where we were at. Obviously
trying to get it back ever since.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, when we were speaking to the Photos, one of the things that we spoke to them about was obviously they were a band with a female lead, and there was this big noise about the British blondie sort of, I don't know whether it was a movement or whether it was just a press thing, but certainly they were a bit frustrated by that, because they didn't feel that fitted. Did you feel that was also things that were spoken about the Darling Buds as well?
She's talking about the elephant in the room there, aren't you? The blonde thing.
Yeah.
Blonde singers, yeah. I mean, in some ways, I just write it off, in every way I write it off as lazy journalism, because that's what it is. Lump a load of people together, a baggy scene, a Manchester scene. I mean, we've all got similar voices, but we're different. We're different people. We happen to have blonde hair. We have different songs. But I suppose there is an element of, girl singers, guitars. I can get it.
Yeah. I thought that it's great being part of a scene, where similar sounding bands sound together, but to sort of silo it based on hair colour just seemed
it's a bit
really
condescending,
stupid to me.
Yeah.
Sexist.
Yeah, I agree. I did think that.
Well, looking back now, it did feel quite lazy from a journalism point of view. I think that, I'm not sure it would happen today, but back then, and obviously, if we're dealing with elephants in the room, let's get them all out. You were obviously on the front covers as well of a number of the sort of regular music press. Did that feel you were sort of on the beginning of something huge?
I don't want to sound big-headed, but yes, in a way it did, because that was quite, again, we were very, like, in an infancy, really, of forming. Do you know what I mean? We hadn't really got a lot of material. We didn't really have a number of albums or anything behind us. We were so young, and to kind of, be playing those tiny little gigs that we were playing, and then walking into your local, news agent and seeing your name seeing your face on the front of something was sort of flipping heck. That's quite a big deal.
Things like that happen. and it's like vindication, isn't it? You remember all, it's nice for your families, your parents and whatnot, but also the people in school who thought you'd never get anywhere.
Yeah.
That's
True. Yeah. Yeah.
Are they framed in your house?
And no, they're not framed. They have come out a couple of times when I've moved houses because they're in boxes in the attic or shoved in bags somewhere. But no, they're not. No.
So you played on Top of the Pops and Going Live, I think. So what was that experience like?
Well, again, it's BBC Top of the Pops. It's like a national, institution, isn't it? It was something we all grew up on, and we were the sort of band that used to take the mickey out of things a lot and take the piss out of ourselves a lot. So we kind of did a little bit of that, a bit of goofing around in the studio, not taking it very seriously at all. I don't think we took anything very seriously, but it was, again, massive excitement to just sort of be there and
there was also I was listening to your Photos interview earlier, and the curse of Top of the Pops for them, and this hit the ground.
We had Lockerbie.
Lockerbie happened the same week it started going up, and then Radio 1 pulled the song, and that was that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know. For listeners who abroad who don't know what that is, that was a massive terrorist plane attack that brought a plane down in Scotland. So
I didn't realise that had that sort of level of impact, though, on that particular song.
Yeah,
well, things like that happened, didn't they?
Yeah.
Just the title. I mean, I remember Massive Attack had all their radio play pulled, didn't they? When the Iraq War started, just because they were called Massive Attack. Radio 1 were really, really conscious of anything.
And you get told it as well. I remember our management saying, "Oh, you've been banned. Your record's been banned." We were like, "What? Yeah, your record's it's off the A list, it's off the B list. You've been banned. You're not being played anymore." I think about 3 weeks later, they might have started to pick up on it again. And then Top of the Pops happened, and it went once you got on Top of the Pops, it went right up. Then
I got a question. I noticed that you did a gig in Cardiff supporting Simple Minds in Texas. In August 89, I even wrote down here. That must have been quite a proud moment because it must have felt like a homecoming, like a massive gig.
Well, I don't know how many actual Darling Buds fans were there because it was probably the biggest audience I've ever played to. I think there were about 80,000 people or something in the old Cardiff Arms Park.
Yeah, Cardiff Arms Park. Wow.
And we could invite our parents along, and that's something that I always feel really chuffed about, is that Mum and Dad were there to see me in that huge stage in Cardiff Arms Park, and a very proud Welsh woman, and to be playing there was great experience. Yeah, I mean, it was broad daylight. We went on at something like 2:00 in the afternoon or 3:00 in the afternoon, and I think we just had such a small little puny sound compared to all those big stadium bands. But we did it, and it was good experience.
One of the things that the photos were talking about was they had a problem with Epic and Muff Winwood, and their second album didn't get released because they didn't think that there was a hit single on it, and that they told them to go away and rewrite the songs or to write a hit single just like that. Obviously, from your point of view, you've got Pop Said, which was after that, Crawdaddy was released sort of quite quickly, I guess. Maybe these days really quickly, but in those days it was part of that process. How did you go about with that change from Pop Said to Crawdaddy? Because in terms of to get those songs together.
Yes, good question, actually, because that's always, you've got this bank of material, haven't you? And then that goes out. You're on tour a lot. It's harder to write. I know I did a lot of writing in the studio, and also we did change producers. We worked on the first album with Pat Collier, who was absolutely brilliant. And I can't even remember why we didn't use him again. I don't know whether it was the influence of Sony management or whether we decided, I can't remember. We decided to, try out a different producer, maybe bigger sound, I don't know, but we got on really well with Stephen Street then, who just brought a different kind of polish to our material and maybe possibly more of a commercial sound to our songs. So it had a different feel to that. And something that Harley said in another interview that he did with us a while ago, he said he remembers Sony saying, this dance movement's really big in Manchester, so you need to have a bit of that sort of. I don't remember them saying that, but he said he does. So they certainly sit in a big room with you and kind of have a chat about how things are developing and going. And I don't know if it's just me. I see people as usually quite friendly if they're quite nice, and I just saw him as that really. But if you're talking about Love Winwood, but there is definitely a pressure as well to come up with the good single.
They want to hear a hit, another hit single, don't they? It's just the age-old story with major labels. I think the Buds were luckier than the Photos because it started taking off on college radio in the States. So when we started going over there, that there was
a bit of a buzz over there then.
By the time the UK press had sort of gone a bit cold on the Buds, it was picking up in the States. So that was a next sort of nice little leg up really for Sony to sort of keep
focus
interested.
On that then. Yeah, that's right.
How did it get to that? How did it get so in terms of that in America then? How did you get that level of profile? Was it just good marketing, or was there something, another reason?
Yeah, just the lucky, college radio. You get college radio in certain areas picking up on something.
And if there's one thing to say for being signed to a big label, because it isn't, a lot of it is not always great. But one good thing is that you've got some money behind you to get you on tour and, fly you. I mean, back in the day, it was easy to do anyway, wasn't it? But, get you out on tour and pay for it, basically.
Well, Crystal Clear got to a good level, didn't it? Number 5 in the alternative charts. So I wondered if that was going to be part of your breakthrough there.
Well, yeah, that was the hit, really, wasn't it? Off the second album, when we played in the States, we couldn't play anywhere without playing that song. Whereas, and we didn't play Hit the Ground on the one tour we played in the States, so, and you couldn't get away with not playing Hit the Ground in the UK, so it was a very different audience, a different market, really,
But yeah, Hit the Ground. Crystal Clear did really well, didn't it, in college radio in the States? Yeah.
So when you toured the Erotica album in the States, you got any memories of that? Any sort of like special things that come to mind about that time then?
That was
we did a long tour, didn't we, with that?
Months,
I remember we came back on 23rd of Christmas, of December, flying back from LA, which was boiling hot, to snow. But parts of it on the way. It's loads of it. I think every city has a little story, doesn't it?
It was the proper tour with a sleeper bus and doing a whole figure 8 of the whole country, all the states, and probably stories from everywhere. It was great. It was just great, really, really.
Yeah, we had a nice tour bus and nice people working with us as well. We did take our sound guy, though, didn't we?
We
took our crew with us, and they all came along for the ride. And Las Vegas. That was hard. Remember Las Vegas?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, it was. I'd hate to say it's hard work because it's not coal mining, but it was tiring. We sort of, you go from some of the drives were really long, and they get you out of your bunk to do an interview with the radio first thing in the morning, and then somebody want to take you for breakfast, and you just then you go to sound check, and then it was
it was
like I say, it's not cold, but some people probably listen to this and go, "You lucky kid, I killed to do that." But,
it was just knackering, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I think we were we were culprits of not
Yeah.
we burning the candle at both
Yeah,
ends,
yeah,
weren't
yeah,
we?
we did.
Yeah.
We did.
So did that tour inspire your decision to move to LA to write some more material?
Yeah, because we settled. We had management out. We had really good management, actually. We had, at the time, good British management. Just
Yeah.
before that, we didn't. Yeah, the people in Los Angeles, they encouraged us to do it. The management did. They said, "Why don't you focus out here? We've got a lot of people wanting to work with you." And we went out and did. How many videos did we do out there?
We did one video out there, I think. But
Yeah.
but we went out there to do sort of demos and showcases and
Yeah.
basically to start the process of the fourth album, really, do the demos and try and extricate ourselves from the Sony deal and get a new label, because there was quite contractual issues with the UK and the US arm of Sony, where they weren't really talking. So I think it was decided the best thing to do was get ourselves out of the Sony deal and get a new label. So that's what we were there doing demos for A&M and
Warner.
Caroline Warner. Yeah. We sort of, it was great. We got lots of free studio time. People were interested, and we did loads of demos, and nothing came of it. we sort of, I think we'd had
enough as well at that point.
we
We were all getting a bit homesick and decided to impatient.
And we ran out of money.
Yeah, we ran out. Important.
There is that.
Forgot about that. Yeah, there's only so much spending we could do.
That minor detail.
Yeah.
So after Erotica, then, and by the way, how's that re-release gone down? Because it's just been re-released, isn't it? Vinyl one.
I haven't heard anything about that one.
No, we did. It was mentioned to me when we were talking to Cherry Red about the box set, because Cherry Red got a licensing deal with Sony to do re-release thing on box sets. It was mentioned to me that this company, Music for Vinyl, were going to re-release the Buds. If I hadn't been talking to Cherry Red, I don't think that had been mentioned to us. It would have just come out without our knowledge. They'd never contacted us about it. I didn't even know when it was being released. I saw it being advertised, and Harley messaged me and said, "Do you know anything about this?" And I was like, "I don't know anything about it at all." So no, it's basically Sony own that record. So, and we probably still in debt to Sony, so they can do what they like, really.
That's the bottom line, isn't it? Yeah. You still re-release your stuff, whether you like it or not. So
the point is, they do a good job, that Music for Vinyl label. They're really good. And the good thing about it is it does we're basically in debt to Sony. So the more things Sony sell, the more the debt comes down.
So after Erotica, then you took a break. Is that the nicest way of putting it? So how did that? What was the sort of the process that you went through, other than running out of money in the States?
Oh God!
Well, just when I said, we stayed friends and we still lived locally, but
I stayed out there a little bit longer, and then
I
was in the LA earthquake at the time. So I came back just after that and didn't go into music. I kind of just had a bit of a, personally, I just felt a bit of a sour taste in my mouth about it. I was like, no, don't really want to get involved anymore in music. But you carried on, didn't you?
Oh yeah, well yeah. I mean, I've always bands before I joined the Buds. So I mean, me and Chris from the Buds, we formed another band straight away, and I've been played in loads of bands ever since and never stopped, really. So but I mean, not as a day job. I basically went back to the day job, and because we sort of moved on musically with other bands, and we forgot about the Buds completely. I mean, there was sort of long stretches of years. I honestly didn't listen to a Buds song until we got back together. I never played the Buds. I just and even like the thought of the Buds, they were big. Every now and again, it'd pop into your head in those intervening years. Somebody'd ask you, and you'd think that's the most ridiculous thing ever. That's never ever going to happen. It just seems such a ridiculous thing. But eventually, I know why it happened, but it was just suddenly, the way the cards fell, it was just seemed right for us all, really, and it was good fun. It was a bit of fun, a one-off for a bit of fun. We got together for a tribute gig, a one-off festival.
The TJ's venue.
When John Polo died, it was it's the funeral. We had his funeral. People were talking and drinking, and it was suggested, and we said, yeah, that'd be great. So we practiced like mad, didn't we? And we had a great day. It was a brilliant day. And then it just sort of, once that cat was out the bag, it was sort of
quite a few people started asking then.
Once people started, so we're like, oh yeah, we'll do one more. And then there was another one. It was a really nice one. We'll do that one. So it was sort of,
everyone was going to be the last one. And it was like, oh, we're doing it now. Yeah.
So on the box set, one of the songs was "Guess the Good Parts." And it said in the notes that it was part of an early demo for a fourth album.
Yeah, that was one of.
Is that now a working thing for you? A fourth album?
Yeah, but that Guess the Good Parts was from
Evergreen EP.
Yeah.
But that was we did. We found it on a cassette.
Yes, it was from like 100 years ago.
Yeah, we had been demoing it for the fourth album.
Back in the day,
right.
Yeah. So it was like the link in a way, because then it got kind of not rewritten. But
we finished it.
Yeah,
really, because there wasn't a second. It was funny because the first verse was good, but there was no second verse. So we wrote the second verse as kind of almost 20 years later, the same people 20 years later in the second verse. So it was kind of worked out really well. Yeah. But that was for the EP we brought out about 2017, I think. So but since then we do a few gigs a year, and we've written more songs, and we've got an album
in the making.
Oh wow, there is a fourth album.
It's not going to be a finished version of what was going to be the fourth. We listened to all the demos for the fourth album, didn't we? And we said,
they're on that CD, aren't they?
Just to think, we try and resurrect some of those but they just didn't sound like. There's one we're doing that's not on the box set. There was another old cassette, but apart from that, it's all new material.
Yeah,
brilliant, fantastic.
Will it be 2024 or 2025? Do you think?
I know. No, so it always comes up. Well, otherwise we'll be breaking up again, or one of us will be conk out by then.
Do you know how the box set is sold? Is it done well?
No idea.
No idea how it's sold, but the reviews have been really good.
The reviews have been excellent. Really excellent. Yeah, I read those. Yeah, very good.
It's nice. We put a lot of work into that. I mean, again, Cherry Red didn't have to involve us. It was, they could have just taken all the things they own and put all that out, but they involved us and said, you can have a couple of discs, you can sort of curate yourself. So that was where the first and the last disc came in. It was, we put a lot of work into it, actually, and the booklet, because they said, you can write your own booklet, basically, and have as many pages as you like. And, you get these Cherry Red, well, not necessarily Cherry Red, but you get these box sets, and there's just a one fold-out thing, and we thought, let's do it properly and have get all our old photos in there and tell a bit of a story about everything. And we put a bit of work into it, and really pleased how it turned out.
Fantastic. And have you got some gigs coming up as well, or any more planned?
Yeah, we got our soon to be announced annual London gig in November.
One on
Oh yeah, we're
a
playing
little festival,
yeah,
a local festival as well.
Yeah, festival in Usk, which is near us, which is like only a small festival, but it seems to be growing year on year. And we're playing. I've just been told today actually, we're on the Saturday night with Bug Club and Bez and Rowita.
Beautiful place, Usk as well. Lovely.
Oh,
you know it, do you?
I do it a little bit. Yeah, I used to go to Wales a fair bit, so that whole area is just lovely around there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you a question, Andrea, then ask you the same question in a minute, Matt. So what's your best memory so far of the Darling Buds?
Mine. Oh, right. Well, I probably said it when I didn't I? Hearing John Peel play us for the first time. Oh my God, best memories. I think it just the festivals and going on tour, meeting people, playing live in other cities. Yeah, that was so special, you know. And I was talking to the other day to someone. We played with the Pogues and the Stray Cats in Germany, and it was like a 4 or 5 day tour with them at festivals. And just there's so much that I forget about, and then it all comes back when someone starts. Talking about Shane McGowan, and I played with them. Did you? Yeah, I played with that, and meeting Spider, and just things like that.
So Matt, same question for you.
Well, I suppose it was sort of joining really. I was sort of friends with the band before, and I was in bands with Chris before, and I was around the band, but then being asked to join and leaving my job in the factory. I remember just giving my notice in the factory and then just hopping on a plane to America with them. It was brilliant. And then we did a tour. That first big tour we did, they really, we were tight. We practiced a lot. We did a lot of gigs. But about the middle of the tour, we got to Chicago, and we played the Chicago Metro. We were on fire. It was just the best gig I've ever played, and we were just such a buzz. It was
definitely playing live has been the highlights for me as well. Yeah, and we did a gig with David Byrne, didn't we?
On that
tour.
Yeah, David Byrne and Jellyfish. Oh, it was like an all day thing, wasn't it? For a radio station in San Francisco. Yeah, that was great meeting David Byrne. And when we played when we were over in LA, we played in the Viper Room a few times.
Yeah, in its early days, it just opened in its early days. We were there a few times.
With Pearl Jam.
We were the local band.
we played with Pearl Jam in the Viper Room.
Really? Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah, about 200 people at the most. It was and all the Hollywood
jet set
were in front of us. It was mad.
Yeah,
that's incredible. That's great stuff.
What was it like joining an established? Obviously the Darling Buds were well established when you joined, Matt. How was that? Obviously, if you'd been around the band, maybe it was an easier transition. But
we were friends anyway. So it felt really, really.
It was natural. It was really natural. The culture shock was going professional, leaving a job at a factory, because I've always played in bands before and since, but going professional with the Buds, that was the big culture shock for me, really.
And it's hard when you're in a band to get that, because the real company will, if you need an extra guitar player or a different drummer or whatever, the real company will, obviously get session people in, or, just a one-off, whatever. But it's hard to get someone who is a mate and fits the whole thing. And that's what us as Darling Buds were about. So when Matt joined, it was like, oh, brilliant. We got someone that is a friend as well, not just, a session player. So yeah, it all happened really quickly, and it was really comfortable, wasn't it?
Yes.
Thank you for your time. We really appreciate it, and thank you for joining us on this episode.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you. Yeah. Great. Well, it's great. You've been doing so much in a short time, so best of luck with it all.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Just a little
thank you for listening to this episode of the Uncharted 80s podcast. As you know, we do our research from a variety of sources, but of course, if you want to add any more details to what we've talked about or correct us on anything, then you can, of course, contact us. Where can they contact us, Noel?
Well, they can contact us on our email address, which is podcast@uncharted80s.com.
Brilliant. Or you can do that via our Facebook group, the Uncharted 80s. Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Thank you.